All right, and welcome back to Full-Time Freedom Week. We are coming to you live here on YouTube with today's panelists, the ones that were able to make it at least. And my scenario, my background, as you can see, might be a little different. I'm actually coming to you from the sixth floor of a parking garage in downtown San Antonio, Texas. And I'm holding onto my laptop to make sure it doesn't go flying over the rails because here, I'll show you just, we don't want it to go flying down if that may get an old thing. But we've got some great panelists that were able to join us for this live session. If you're just tuning in, if you're just kind of getting going, if you have any questions as we go through this for these panelists, maybe you saw something in their seminar today that you want more information about, or you just have different questions, pop it in the comments below because we'll be able to answer them and kind of go through that. But just to kind of refresh everyone's memory, we're going to let everyone introduce themselves and talk about, a little bit about what they've done. We're going to start here with Mark from Campground Views. Mark, go ahead.
Hey there, yeah, Mark Hepp with campgroundviews.com. Spoke to you at this event about starting and running a big business on the road from your RV. My wife and I were full-time RVers for 12 years. That is past tense. A year ago, we sold our RV because that big business became much bigger. So I hope you got a lot of value of that, and I'm here to help you enjoy your RV lifestyle because it's freaking amazing.
Yes, it is. All right. And we have two Kristens part of this panel here, so that's going to get a little confusing. But we're going to start here with you, Kristen. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Okay, so I'm not Kristen. I'm Kirsten, and Kirsten
Oh.
Womack with Move with Mac. That's okay. And I talked about kitchen tips and cooking in your RV and not being afraid to cook in your RV and making up great healthy meals that will keep you full and happy while you're on the road.
Yeah, all right. Okay, let's go to the other Kristen with Perpetual Moves then. That'll make it a lot easier for the session. There we go.
Thanks, Stuart. I'm Kristen with Perpetual Moves. We live in a Class A motorhome full-time, and we are primarily boondockers. So my presentation was about boondocking and how to get started.
All right. And then from the Escapees RV Club, another great sponsor of Full-Time Freedom Week, this is Corinda Durr from Escapees.
Yeah, so as you said, I'm Corinda Durr. I'm part of a Escapees RV Club. I have been a full-time RVer. We hit the road in 2014, and this is our pandemic home base buy. So we're still part-timers now, and we're out on the road a lot, and we'll be leaving here to go to Escapade soon. Oh, it was also part of the Finding Your Tribe panel because Escapees is all about community.
Yes, that was, I know that you guys have done a lot of different sessions and you popped in here and there, but this one was just all about trying to find community when you're on the road. And a lot of things that we've learned as we kind of gone through this week, finding community has a lot to do with not just, getting involved, but it's also about boondocking because that's where you find real community. You don't, we talked about how it's harder to find in RV parks and stuff like that because everyone seems to be a little more introverted there. We talked about how a lot of boondockers, a lot of people just really gather around food. It seems like every time you get together, you're always cooking something up. You always have that grill going. There's always something good to eat and drink, when you're boondocking out with some good community and some good people. But Mark, we're going to start with you today as Campground Views because one of the biggest things people ask about, other than being on the road and boondocking, people want to know, how do I make money? And I'd love for you just to real briefly, again, tell your story about how campgroundviews.com came into play and how you managed to be able to build this business while traveling full time.
Yeah, so the whole concept for campgroundviews.com came from the problem of finding a campground. As many of you know, it's not always easy to find out if the spot's right for you, and that was where the idea came from. But how you actually build a business on the road goes a little bit deeper than just having an idea. You need to decide that you actually want to do it. Starting a business is not easy. It takes a lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of commitment. And you need to understand yourself, your family, and your travel conditions if you're able to and willing to do that. It can be very rewarding for you. And if you design it right, it could actually be something that's part of your travels. And there's some tax implications for that too, in a positive way. But the real key is just to know that there's a problem, identify it, and then go after solving it. And then, building a tribe, I'll play off that, of people who like what you're doing, support you, and are willing to give you money for what you're doing so that you can continue doing it and bringing on more people.
So what decided what made you decide that this business was way too big for what I was doing? I need to get off the road, because we all
Yeah.
would love to have a successful business where we can build it from the road, but to say, wow, this thing has really taken off, and RVing is just kind of getting in the way of what it originally started. Just how did you make that decision that it was time to focus all in on this opportunity?
Yeah, I mean, well, the answer to that's kind of more nuanced. I've got young kids. Obviously, we were full-time RVers before and then during COVID, and I think there's a lot of folks that were in my shoes that were full-timers before COVID and during it, who realized that not having a home base at a time like that, and obviously the world went freaking nuts. I'll say it. It went crazy. So, not having a home base was not a secure position to be in, especially in our situation where you're starting to raise investment from investors, right? So that was part of the reason why, and there's some other more personal reasons why we settled down. And the other reason why, there's so many RVers out there. So we weren't boondockers. In fact, we only boondocked one night in 12 years. So, totally different RVing style. And a lot of folks know a lot of the bigger RV parks became really crowded. So there's a whole host of reasons why we stopped traveling, but it is something to consider, especially if you're building a big business. Can you do it successfully from the road? And the answer is, yeah, you can run virtual businesses from the road. But if you're the founder, if you're the person that's the face of it, are you going to be stable enough on the road? And part of it is I do a lot of this type of stuff, a lot of video chats. And in an RV, it just became really prohibitive, not so much to me, but to my family and my kids. They had to go outside, or they had to go hide in a room while I'm doing these chats. And on some days I was doing 6-7 hours of chats. So it wasn't really fair to them, where I'm taking up an entire space within the RV doing these chats, and they are hiding in order to be off the camera. So there's a lot of factors. Everybody's different. So do what's right for you.
I think that's kind of really the key. We always talk about how there's no one way to RV. There's no right way. There's no wrong way. It's just your way, right? And you kind of do what you got to do, and that kind of all fits in. And nobody probably knows more about that than Corinza, because she sees it every day with the tens of thousands of members and all the different styles. Putting together. You mentioned you were going to Escapade. That's a huge event that you guys do every year. It's your annual staple event, and people come in from everywhere in all sorts of different rigs, from all walks of life, and from people who just started RVing to those that have been on the road for, I don't know, what's the longest that you've heard of people, been on the road, come to Escapade or part of the Escapees Club?
Oh, I mean, offhand, I can think of people, people who've been on there 10 and even 20 years. There's probably some more, because yes, it seems like once people start going, or once they're members forever. We have people who get off the road and stay members and just meet up with the local RVing community still. So people really stick around, but as you said, it's a really diverse kind of situation with different types of RVs. Everyone does it differently. It's somewhat hookups. You have water and electric, no sewer, but you can also choose dry camping. So people who are more comfortable with that might want to do that there. This year is in Tennessee, so you decide if the humidity is okay for you. But yeah, we have a lot of boondockers. I know a lot of my friends are primarily boondocking. We do a lot of it, but we also spend time in campgrounds, especially depending on the area of the country we're in. And there's just so many ways you can do things, and even going beyond that to like traveling fast. We know people who travel over a few days, but others like to spend 2 weeks or maybe a month in a place. So there's just so much that you can do and make it your own style and work for you.
Yeah. And Kristen, with Perpetual Moves, I remember in your session, I think you were saying that you guys did a lot of RV parks, and then you decided we're pulling the plug and we're going all boondocking, and that's pretty much all you've done, right? For the past, I forget how many years you said, a year or something like that. How's that working out for you?
It's working out excellent. I don't really see us going back. We did month-long stays at RV parks, or longer. Like, we only paid monthly rates, and that was how we reduced the cost when we were living at RV parks. And we were closer to towns and cities and amenities when we lived that way. But we were also wearing a little bit thin of having the place you have to be and having the reservation and all the people and the close quarters. And it was during COVID that we said, we're done with this, and pulled the plug and started to, spend more time in nature and in rural areas. And we probably do like maybe one or two RV park nights every 2 or so months, because every once in a while we'll have something we just like need that for, but it's not our preference for sure.
Was it a tough transition for you though, to go from having ample everything to having to conserve and all that, or did it seem pretty easy?
Yeah, it seemed pretty easy. There, showers are the thing I miss the most. I showered today for you guys. I thought that would be appropriate. Um, but we found out today that our black tank lasts 28 days because today it hit the full sensor and the toilet burped. So, you're like really pushing the limits of boondocking when your tanks are full. And, we do. We're just not afraid of it, I guess. It's like we have a flexible lifestyle enough that we can say, all right, well, I guess we have to move today, and it doesn't matter because we're just going to the next boondocking place. There's no check-in time. There's no reservations. And I really appreciate that. To me, has been less stressful than trying to manage the park reservations.
Two questions, and it's for you, Kristen and Mark, at campgroundviews.com, because Mark, you were saying that you only did campground for 12 years, and then they changed it. So I'd love to get your guys' advice to one another. So Kristen, if you could you met Mark in the campsite somewhere, and you were just out and about, and then he goes, "Oh, I've only been campgrounding for or a full hookup sites for 12 years." What would you tell him if you didn't know why he kept doing that or why he got him? What would your advice to him be to say, try it?
Yeah, I tell everyone to come with me. For us, we had friends that invited us to go boondocking with them, and they sped up our learning curve for us and helped us have the right tools and the right systems and made it pleasurable right away. And for us, one of the big reasons that we can't imagine not boondocking is because of community, like you were saying earlier. It's easier to meet up with your friends when you're camping on free public land. We were just north of Moab 2 weeks ago. We were here by ourselves, and we have now had 6 different RVs come and join us for different parts of these 2 weeks, just because they can. We have friends coming through the area. They're going to stay for a week, and we can camp together, and then we go our separate ways. Like, you could never do that with RV parks. It's just too much planning. And so for us, I would just say, it's different for everybody, but it's just the two of us. Like, we don't have kids. So being able to be with friends is the number one reason. But even if you can just buddy up with somebody that's done it before, they'll speed up your learning curve.
Now, Mark, same question to you. What happens if you meet her and you're like, "Man, you're crazy. I'm too bougie. I can never survive 28 days without dumping my tanks"? Like, really?
No, I wouldn't even talk her out of it. It's awesome. I guess the biggest advice I have for and this is really for newbies who are just getting into this, is that boondocking takes planning, preparation, and knowledge about what you're doing. It's not something you just jump into. So that would be my only bit of advice: is if you're just starting out and it's your first time, start out in some campgrounds, get used to your rig, do it a little bit at a time, and then eventually jump into it. There's nothing wrong with boondocking. It's freaking awesome. You've seen the photos that come out of some of those places. They're awesome. But so is RV camping, and so is state park camping. I mean, it's no one size fits all. Just understand what you're getting into and know it, right? So that's, for example, at Campground Views, we actually don't list any boondocking sites at our website, and that's purposeful because most of the people that come to our website are new campers. The last thing I want to do is send them out in the middle of nowhere when they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, and that's really like what Kristen just said. Like, go with somebody who knows. You know, having that experienced hand is always a thing. In one of the other sessions that we did, going back to like escapees, a lot of people say, come to a convergence or come to an event
Mhm.
because there's always a helpful hand. There's, if you've never done it before, go with people that you know. Everyone is willing to help each other out. You know, and
Absolutely. Like it's
and
the convergences are mainly dry camping. So if you've never done it, you have a bunch of people around you that will help you out. And the other thing you can do is if you're worried about your batteries, you don't know how long they're going to last or just how long you live on this type of stuff, you can go to the campground and not plug in and have all that stuff there. And then if you need it, it's right there. You can dump, you can plug your water back in, plug electricity, and no harm done.
So, Kirsten, I'm kind of curious. You know, cooking when you're in a full hookup spot, especially if you have like electric stoves as opposed to like propane and all that. You know, you maybe look at things differently if you're in a hookup spot where you have endless energy. But those induction stove tops, all these other kinds of stuff, residential refrigerators, they take up a lot of power. And if you're boondocking, that's got to be a huge thing. How often do you boondock, or do you not do boondock at all? Are you more of a campground kind of person, or mix it up a little bit?
So we mix up and we mostly camp at military campgrounds. And that's another avenue and it's quite different. My husband is a disabled veteran. So we mostly camp at um, military based campgrounds, but we have done some boondocking and we plan to do more boondocking real soon. The cooking will be the same. We have propane, so I will continue to cook. I may do some prep at a campground ahead of time, but I don't think it'll be any different. Actually, it's probably going to make me get outside and cook more outside on our Blackstone grill.
I know I only set up my Blackstone when I'm boondocking. I never really seem to use it at a campsite at all, which I don't know why. I, I don't know. Maybe what do you guys do? I just noticed that a little while ago that it seems to be only a boondocking kind of experience for me.
I think boondocking draws you outside more than being in an RV park, just because you have the space and the views and you're alone. It's just a different feel than if you're in an RV park or a campground. I mean, like a state park campground would be more similar to boondocking, but I think that's the difference. When you're boondocking, you don't have you can't take an hour long shower, right? So you might as well go outside, hang out. So I think it's just a different environment.
Yeah, I
Any,
agree.
anyone else have anything they want to add to that?
Now, I'm not sure why you would do that, but we used to pull out our grill all the time when we first started camping, just in general. But I do feel like it does go out a little easier when you're boondocking. Like Mark said, you're pulled out into nature. And I have had propane cooktops and we had an induction cooktop when we started. And it does make it easier to kind of go outside and just grill things. You don't have to worry about uh, using things inside, even if it is your propane inside and you're hooked up to your propane outside. But especially with the induction cooktop and things like that, it makes a little more sense to do it with something that you can easily refill and not using energy.
Yeah, I think too. As I was kind of thinking about it, as we were just talking about it, a lot of RV parks, not all of them, state parks are nice because you have a lot of room, but a lot of RV parks, you're really close to your neighbor, and spending time outside when you can reach out and touch the wall of the rig next to you, it maybe isn't like that. Sometimes when you're boondocking, you feel like you have more space. You can spread out. You put your chairs outside. You have a little more privacy, and because of that, maybe it just feels like it is more natural, to be cooking outside. I mean, I don't know. Am I wrong?
Yes.
Well, it's funny. We were talking to a family that used to be full time, and they've since moved into a home. It wasn't us; it was somebody else. And the mother commented, and it was a really insightful comment, just in passing. And she said she really missed being in the RV, and she realized she really missed it when she was cooking dinner, and everybody went to their own rooms, and they weren't there around her anymore. And she kind of felt like she lost that community of her family. That's one of the things about RVing. I advise people, if you haven't done it before and you're considering it, you better really love the people you're with, because you're in a small space with them, and it's really a bad opportunity to find out you don't like that person because they can't go anywhere else. They're right there, so you better love the person you're with.
I think everyone will agree with that. I saw everyone smiling and laughing and nodding their head, and I was like, yes, you gotta like your family and like the people you're traveling with. That's for sure. One of the things that I've learned a lot just going through this process with myself. But I remember Kirsten, when we were talking about cooking and different regional spices, different foods, farmers markets, getting into this really great area where you can find all these unique kinds of stuff. And I love to eat. I don't cook that much. I'm starting to do more, but I love to go out, like here in San Antonio where I'm at right now. You kind of say, like, where's the good spots, to eat? And they just have such unique flavors, and they just have such a great kind of, I don't know. It's just definitely at this. How do you try and capture? Do you have a secret on maybe how you can say, I really like this flavor style? Where do you go to shop when you're here? You can take some of this taste of wherever you're at with you to your next spot, your next spot, your next spot, because you're not going to get that at the chain restaurants or the chain grocery stores, right?
Right.
Do you have
Right.
secrets on where to go and shop at?
Well, there's a lot of different places, but my main thing that I like to get when I'm out and shopping is the spices for the different regions that I'm in. So, like right now, well, yesterday we were in New Orleans, so I stopped in a gift shop. Gift shops always have a little section of sauces and spices and that type of thing. And even some of the welcome centers that sell things, the different state welcome centers, they will have what's popular in their region.
All right. The food, again, it just kind of goes back to that whole thing, but food is really built around that community. And the episode that we did today with Karenza and Nicole, who unfortunately couldn't make it today because she's taking care of some family obligations, is all about building community. And it seems like every time you're always doing community, you're always eating something or drinking something, and Escapees incorporates a lot of that into the event. Like, I think for this event that I'm heading to next in Austin, there's a day where it's a potluck brunch or a potluck dinner or something like that, where everyone can mix and match and all that. This question is for everybody. How does food really play into the socialization as an RVer?
It's a big part of it, I really think. It is.
I was going to say, I think it's a major part.
Yeah, right. It's even at events, we always have stuff going on like that, talking about the potluck brunch or a grill out or just different types of things. And then just with friends, I mean, that's how I've met a lot of RVers on the road, is we just kind of put out a call, like, we're going to this brewery or we're going here. Anybody who wants to come on. And there's just been sometimes huge groups of people who are just in the area that meet up. It's a huge thing. We'll just go out to places, or people, especially if we're talking about friends grouping together to boondock, that whole sharing meals half the time, even if you just kind of cook and you come outside and eat, that happens a lot.
Anyone else? How do you, and this for anybody again, like cooking for yourself or maybe, one other person in your rig, that's easy to do. But when you're trying to cook in the rig for 6 or 8 people, like, how do you do that? Because a lot of times, you don't have that. Does anyone have any tips or tricks or advice on if you're going to host an event at your rig and next thing you know, you got 2 families coming over and you got 12 mouths to feed, like in that tiny little space? Does that happen or does that not happen?
Happens.
Crock Pot Meals.
What's that?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Crock Pot Meals.
Oh, Crock Pot? Okay. Yeah.
An Instant Pot, same kind of idea. I've totally done that there. And the grill, because the grill has more space usually, and you can keep it going, works well. And you can keep people outside if you want to be outside. And if, depending how big your RV is, you've got a lot of people.
Yeah.
I think it's like a divide and conquer situation, right? Like, I've never been in a situation where I'm cooking an entire meal for everyone that we're camping with. It's like I'm handling appetizers, or I have to do the salad, or I'm doing dessert, right? Like, yes, it confuses me every time I have to cook for anything for more than just the two of us, because I'm like, wait, hold on. I only bought one head of lettuce. Is that enough for salad for 12 people? But I think, it's not overwhelming to me because I just have to do this one thing instead of having to do the whole thing. Um, and yeah, when we're camping with people for any amount of time, we often will just cook and eat our own meals outside together. It's kind of the best part of RV friendships is like you have your own toilet, you have your own dishes, you have your own food. You don't really have to entertain each other, but you can still, share. You can still share the experience without having to, have someone carry the hostess responsibilities.
Yeah, and part of meals is the engagement and who you're talking with. And one of the things you'll find when dealing with other full timers, especially once you're a full timer, is you all have these shared experiences that are uniquely shared, right? So you've all been to kind of the same places, but in unique ways. And nobody's had the same experience at the same spots. And you've also had the ability to experience places. I mean, one of the things that always shocks me, it always shocked me when we were on the road. It even shocks me now that we're stationary, is how little the people in an area have actually traveled, even within their own area. They don't go and do things, and so it's pretty amazing. That's one of the cool things about full timers is that they've all been there, they've all gone there, and so you really end up having these really engaging, deep conversations where everybody's talking about things that go beyond the superficial.
We are
It's
almost
definitely
getting up to, yeah, we're almost getting here to that 5:30 point. I know a lot of you guys have things that you need to do. Some of you are on the West Coast and you're still in the middle of your workday. Others, it's 6:30 and dinner's cooking, talking about food. So I really want to just take this moment again to thank you for participating in Full Time Freedom Week. Thank you for being here again. Thanks to the Escapees RV Club also for being one of our sponsors, and for Campground Views, for Mark, for all of your insight as well. But let's just kind of go around the room one more time, just to kind of say, if I missed something or I'm watching this on a replay, how do people get in touch with you? How do people reach you if they want more information, if they want, some other advice? How can people reach out to you? We'll start here with Mark again.
Yeah, go to campgroundviews.com, and I'd encourage you to click on the join button. And the reason I want you to do that is I want you to take a look at what we've launched for you, which are campground virtual tours. It's basically Google Street View for campgrounds. Allows you to go in the campground, look at the site, click on the site, and actually book that site. So pretty game-changing stuff, and that's why I'm not on the road anymore, is to make it easier for you to be on the road.
All right. And Kirsten.
You can find me at movewithmac.com, and that's MACK, Move with Mac.
All right.
And that is on Facebook and Instagram as well.
And Kristen, go ahead.
We're at Perpetual Moves, and we have YouTube videos and Instagram content, and usually just sharing cool boondocking sites and tips.
Okay, and last but not least, Corenza.
You can learn more about Escapees at escapees.com. And if you're interested in Escapers, which is the lifestyle group for working age, catered to working age RVers, that's escapers.com, and it's SCAPERS. Escapees is a little easier.
They made it easy for you.
So again, thank you guys for taking the time out of your day today to be here. I really do appreciate it. Anyone who's watching, you can feel free to reach out to any of our presenters if you need to. All their information is always in the bios of the presentation. Tomorrow is our last day. We have more topics about boondocking. We have more topics just about, oh gosh, I can't even remember all the stuff that we have coming up. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm doing a session tomorrow about memberships and organizations, in which a big couple of our sponsors are a part of, including Escapees and Harvest Hosts. There's 1,000 Trails things if you're curious about that. All that is coming up tomorrow. And then we're going to be wrapping up the event tomorrow with our closing ceremonies, and then kind of going from there. So guys, thank you again for joining me today on this live stream. And I look forward to seeing you guys all on the road very soon.
Safe travels,
Thank
everyone.
You guys too. Thank you so much.